Half of all job seekers who got rejected last year never heard a single reason why. No feedback, no explanation, just silence. And when researchers asked them who they think made that decision, the answer wasn't a hiring manager, it was a machine. Let's talk about what's actually happening behind the "we'll be in touch" emails, and why your job search might be more rigged than you think. Here's the number that should change how you see every application you've ever submitted. Roughly 90% of large employers now use AI to screen job applications before a human ever sees them. That resume you spent hours perfecting. In many cases, it's read, scored, and rejected by an algorithm in under 10 seconds. Not because a person decided you weren't qualified, because a model trained on past hiring data decided you didn't match a pattern. Now here's where it gets genuinely strange. Researchers ran the largest real-world study of hiring algorithms ever conducted, tracking over 3 million people who submitted 4 million applications. They discovered something they called algorithmic monoculture. When multiple companies use the same AI hiring vendor, rejection isn't independent anymore. If you apply to 4 different companies that all use the same algorithm, and that algorithm decides you're not a fit, you're not getting 4 separate chances, you're getting the same verdict 4 times. The study found that 10% of applicants who submitted just 4 applications through the same system were rejected from every single one. Statistically, that's higher than chance would predict if each company were deciding independently. One algorithm, multiplied across the entire job market, quietly deciding who gets a shot everywhere all at once. Some assessment platforms store your results for up to 330 days. So if you take that personality test for one company and a different company uses the same platform months later, you're not being evaluated again. You're being judged by a score you didn't know was still following you. But it gets more serious than inefficiency. A major study analyzing real-world AI hiring data found clear racial disparities. Roughly 1 in 4 black applicants and 15% of Asian applicants applied to positions where the hiring algorithm discriminated against their group, according to the US government's own legal standard for adverse impact. This wasn't a hypothetical bias buried in code nobody checked. It showed up in real recommendations for real jobs affecting real people's careers. And separate researchers found that some AI hiring tools favor white-associated names over equally qualified black candidates more than 80% of the time in direct controlled comparisons. The system isn't malfunctioning, it's doing exactly what it was trained to do: find patterns in historical hiring data. The problem is that historical hiring data already contains historical bias. The algorithm didn't invent the discrimination. It learned it, scaled it, and started applying it instantly, silently, to everyone. Here's what makes this so disorienting for job seekers. When companies were surveyed, only 21% said they were very confident their AI systems weren't unfairly rejecting qualified candidates. Meanwhile, fewer than 1 in 10 job applicants say they were clearly told an algorithm was evaluating them at all. You're being scored by a system. You usually don't know it exists. You can't ask it why. And in most cases, you have no real path to a human who can override it. This is the same pattern we've talked about before on this channel: power without accountability, decisions without explanations. Except this time, it's not deciding what you see online. It's deciding whether you can pay rent. So, what do you actually do with this? First, understand that a fast, unexplained rejection often says more about pattern matching than about your actual qualifications. That doesn't fix the frustration, but it should change how much you let it define your sense of self-worth. Second, diversify where and how you apply. Relying on 1 or 2 channels means relying on 1 or 2 algorithms judging you the same way. repeatedly. Third, push for transparency where you can. Some regions now legally require disclosure when AI is used in hiring. Asking the question, "Is this role screened using AI?" is a reasonable thing to ask, and companies are increasingly required to answer. And fourth, recognize this is a policy conversation that's still being written. Laws like the EU's AI Act and New York City's algorithmic hiring disclosure rules exist because enough people raised this exact question. More attention here changes outcomes. Here's the deeper pattern underneath all of this. We keep building systems that make consequential decisions about people's lives faster, cheaper, at massive scale, before we've built the accountability structures that should come with that power. It happened with content moderation. It's happening with health predictions. And now it's happening with something even more fundamental, whether you get to work at all. The algorithm doesn't know your story. It doesn't know the gap in your resume was caused by caring for a sick parent, or that the job you're underqualified for on paper is one you'd be exceptional at in practice. It just sees a pattern. And patterns, by definition, flatten everything that makes you specifically you. If this changed how you think about your next job application, subscribe to Mind and Method. See you next time.